थोड़ी बात कर लीजिएगा.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is the 25th of October 2023 and these are the stories that we'll try to decipher during the course of our show. We'll begin with the latest as far as the Israeli brutalities on Palestine, on Gaza are concerned. The number of casualties are increasing with every passing day. At least 6,546 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza. Scores have been wounded. The numbers are, the way that the casualties are increasing and the way the reaction from the world is non-committal, to say the least, is a huge question mark for the future of humanity, for the future of human rights, or the future for mankind, for that matter. How can you let any country, decide the fate through violence for another area or another country that it has usurped by itself? It is the occupier, and it is doing all the brutalities that it can do, and even more in the days to come when the ground offensive will begin. A lot of apprehensions from the world over. We've seen a lot of interviews from high celebrities as well, including Queen Rani of Jordan, who's been very vocal as far as the current situation is concerned, and others as well. We'll be highlighting that in our first segment. Our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the anti-state propaganda that has been revealed through official social media teams during the tenure of a PTI. Now, according to a report that has recently come out, the plan to fabricate a fake image of PTI chairman has been exposed. Fake publicity of PTI leadership, false propaganda against state institutions has been done at the expense of government resources, and the resources that have been put to this or were put in this effect were humongous. We'll be highlighting that in our second segment. Then we'll be talking about the moon, ladies and gentlemen. The moon that we see every day, and you relegate the face of beautiful people with the moon as well. Its surface is, as per a latest report, has been formed at least 40 million years earlier than previously thought, according to a new study of an ancient crystal embedded in rock collected by the Apollo 17 astronauts. That is, very interesting for anybody who is interested in scientific technology or scientific endeavors. That something that we have always learned in high school or in school as well. The moon is older than previously anticipated, 40 million years for that matter. And finally, we'll be talking about human faces and other figures etched in stone up to 2,000 years old, ladies and gentlemen. Another discovery that has been made after the moon, but this comes closer to Earth because it is on our Earth as well. It has been revealed on Amazon riverbanks, ladies and gentlemen, as a historic drought in the Brazilian region has brought water levels to unprecedented lows. What happened is, when the water receded to that level, we could see these figures etched in stone that date to so many years. Of course, when we look at scientific discovery, not only can we discover what can be done in the future, but also we can learn from our experiences in the past, and I think this could be one of the prime examples for archaeologists as well. Let's come and begin with our first story, and that concerns Palestine. What has been happening in Palestine, the number of casualties that has been increasing with every passing day. I gave you the number that was 6,546 that have been killed in the Israeli attacks on Gaza. And Gaza, as you know, is a small enclave that houses between 2.2 and 2.4 million people. Of that, also a lot of people have been told now to go towards the south and of course then there are the attacks that happen in the south of Gaza as well. So Israel is continuing its brutalities. It is being supported by important powers in the West, and there's a whole power game as far as defense and strategy is concerned when it comes to the Middle East. What will happen in the future? What is going on exactly? We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them one by one. In the studios, we've got a very able, pertinent guest, Brigadier retired Waqar Hassan. He's a senior analyst. Thank you, sir, to have joined us. And online we'll be joined by Noor Swerki, who is a journalist from Gaza, who will be joining us during the course of this segment as well. Let's begin with you, Brigadier Saab. Brigadier Saab, there has been a meeting recently between the Hezbollah chief and the Palestinian group leaders. Do you feel it has any noteworthiness whatsoever? Do you feel it could lead to something? We've been talking a lot about the other groups such as Islamic Jihad and others that could activate themselves also in the wake of what is happening in Palestine. What do you see as far as the future is concerned?
I think if you look at the Hamas initial military strategy, it was basically to draw international attention, and as I think Marwan Bishara, a renowned journalist in Al Jazeera, mentioned, that Palestinians, instead of dying on their knees in their houses, have decided to stand and fight and take the war into Israel. I think so that was the bottom line. And despite losses, despite atrocities, If you look at the political objective, drawing the international community into the conflict, I think they have achieved, because now you have multifarious forces from US. I think US Gerald Ford fleet with aircraft carriers moved to Eastern Mediterranean. Turkish Navy is there. Russian Tartus base is already there in Syria on the Mediterranean coast, and now you have even Australian task force moving into the region. They say that we don't know the destination, but basically it's to maybe for emergency. Then you have Chinese 6 ships are there in Gulf of Oman, and then Chinese base in Djibouti has been activated. So all told, I would say that all major powers are now in the arena. So it means one is that they've been able to draw the international attention. Then of course,
but you say that they've been able to draw international attention, but in which manner has it international attention come to the Palestinian region? Is it not going to have a lot of negative repercussions?
Yeah, they are there, but if you look at the Palestinian frustration, so basically it was, if you look at normalization process, I'm not targeting any specific country, but generally Palestinians felt that they are being bypassed, and if the normalization process continues, so the promise of Oslo Accord in 1990s and 1999 to give them a state where they can live with honor and develop, that has not been met. It should have been done in 3 to 4 years. So now almost 2 decades have passed, and then there's been, I think, consistent intifadas, basically resistance to get their right. The other thing I think a time we miss is that we take this resistance, or let's say the conflict, as one time thing happening in 4 to 5 years, but actually if you look at Israeli strategy, when Ben-Gurion basically became the first president, and he acknowledged that we have occupied the land and we imprisoned them, so there's going to be a reaction. So a strategy known as, or the policy of Dahiwa was coined, and I would say it's a very, very inhuman policy. Dahiwa means basically mowing the grass. So Palestinians were taken as grass, so it grows, one generation, you mop it out, or let's say mow it down with basically military power, and that has been consistently happening. The only thing is now they've realized, and then of course there are groups, as you mentioned, arrayed against Israeli and US interests. You have Hezbollah in Lebanon, then you have Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, then you have Syria, Zanbun and Fatmiyun brigades, and in the south you have Yemen, where you have now Ansarullah is basically becoming a very strong military force.
Islamic Jihad?
Islamic Jihad, which is within, and then of course West Bank is also being targeted. So there is a Lions Den brigade also there, so most probably. So it means that it could be, in case, as you mentioned, there's important meeting. And then of course is Iranian, I would say, influence with these groups, because Iran also takes it very seriously in terms of, let's say, their interests. So all told, I think it's a very, very dangerous situation. One miscalculation, if you look at the forces arrayed, 3 choke points like Strait of Hormuz, Bab al-Mandab, and then you go to let's say Suez Canal, they control 61% of global energy. You already have shortage of energy because of Russia-Ukraine war. So it means that in any incident happening, one ship getting blocked, so you're looking at global energy supply, and then global business, 33% flows through these 3 choke points. So it means that literally Middle East is sitting on a powder keg, and just matter of miscalculation. So what we have been, I think, advocating and suggesting Pakistan also, this not only businesses, basically it's the human catastrophe which has befallen on the Palestinian, and so it has to be stopped. And in information domain, I think the West and Israel lost the war. If you look at the protests within the Western countries,
you look at the way the countries like France, like other countries, had told to have no protests, and despite that the people came out.
Yeah, because there is a strong Muslim diaspora, and then of course,
the sympathizers also understand the real situation.
People of, even within Israel, there's a lot of pressure on Netanyahu to resign actually, because he failed to, let's say, stop this military, let's say, operation by the Hamas. So within Israel there are calls, because there are people of conscience within Israel. Everybody is not a Zionist.
Of course.
I think unfortunate part was played by India by siding. There are 14 correspondents of India now in Israel, and they are towing their narrative. Even today, I think their let's say representative in the UN, he basically again told the, let's say, Israeli narrative that we condemn the terrorism by Hamas, but we say, oh, sorry for a blast in that hospital. He never mentioned that.
But Brigadier sir, with due respect, there are also countries in the West that are also pursuing the same narrative as that of Israel, and without any hindrance whatsoever, without any regard for the loss of human life, the way it is going.
Yeah, even if you look at French, because there is a line of Western leadership
that visited Israel one after the one. After Biden, there was the British.
Yeah, it's a timetable. I think they are doing it almost 24 hours. So one goes and the other is coming to show solidarity. And the bottom line they say is basically Israel has this right of self-defense. And for that it can do anything. Like I think French president, it was very harsh. He said that you should be very ruthless in the operation against Hamas. And people like John Bolton have been talking of raising it, turning into a car park. Same was I think said by the Israeli defense minister, and then also resonated by Indian media.
But the fact remains, Brigadier Sahab, why and how can leaders have the audacity to talk in this manner when it comes to human life?
Yeah, I think it's very, very hypocritical. If you look at Russia, Ukraine, although Pakistan has been neutral, but the way Russia was targeted in the Western media, and there was choking of gas, and I think some energy infrastructure was destroyed in Ukraine. And Tony Blinken was, I think he mentioned that this is human rights and it's genocide. And here you have open genocide. Daily the grandfathers, grandmothers are showing half-cut bodies of children. People, kids are dying in incubators. So you are not, I mean, you are targeting hospitals. So
you are targeting schools, you are targeting mosques.
Yeah, churches,
Yes.
Even the churches.
The Orthodox Church.
Yeah. So I think the hypocrisy of West has been exposed, and Israeli, and the aura of their dominance and hegemony.
The audacity is exposed. We know who is pursuing what, who is siding with whom. But how do we come to a solution?
I think it's $1 million question, because I think the stage is actually, despite that there have been a lot of human loss, especially on the Palestinian side, stage is now set for the entire international community to realize that this is one, I think, promise that they made to Palestinians, a very genuine one. So it should move to that direction. Otherwise, you are looking at expansion of war. One miscalculation, and just imagine, let's in case they start, because now there is signaling of targeting Iran, and Iran controls, let's say the Persian Gulf from the north, Strait of Hormuz, and if you look at the missile force, and all these groups are also missile powers. And whatever, like Ansarullah has missiles with range of more than 1,000 kilometers, and these were intercepted by US ships. So it means US is already in the war in terms of defending Israel. So they're using military hardware to defend. And now we have THAAD systems coming up. They're going to deploy. So it's a massive deployment of military. And I think if you look at Chinese ships moving in, basically is to protect their convoys, because I think every minute or every 30 seconds there's a super tanker which passes through Strait of Hormuz and Bab al-Mandab onto Europe. So it means that you are basically putting the entire global business at stake, entire energy system at stake, and then of course millions of lives.
But again the question comes, Brigadier Sahab, why? Why put so many things at stake that is endangering humanity at large, the people of the world? And you are not just relegating it to Palestine, you are now extending it to the entire world. If anything, you yourself talk of miscalculation, a little move from one side and the power keg explodes and the repercussions will be extreme.
Yeah, I think the world has been divided. Even in Russia, Ukraine there was a clear I think polarity. West on one side, and by and large developing world siding with let's say, or being neutral, Russia-Ukraine war. Now if you look at the Israeli ambassador's statement and asking very loudly the UN Secretary General to resign, just imagine, because he said that basically this is the result of 56 years of oppression and occupation of land.
It is true.
Yeah, so it means that the arrogance, but I think in terms of public pressure within, of course there could be solutions, let's say what lies with the OIC. So it could be, one is you start with economic sanctions against Israel. Definitely all the deals and things that normalization process should be put into cold storage, and then you basically even start, I would say, affecting the energy supply to Europe and North America. That's the only way. And Muslim world does control a lot of especially the Arab world. Then also is what can the military do, especially the three big countries surrounding Israel. Like you have Egypt. It's a very large military. Then you have Jordan, which controls, I think, maximum border, and then to some extent Syria and Lebanon. But these three countries, in case, can put some military pressure. What I think Iran has done is done some signaling, probably placing some S-300. There was a report in northern Syria. That's why the Israeli Air Force is not flying in that area, and mostly they are focused toward the south. And then, of course, I feel it will be non-state actor in these groups finally jumping in, and maybe we can reach some conclusion, because there will be threat of almost mini World War III. So it's a very, I would say, precarious situation, but I don't know how decision makers in the West can take that much risk.
But this is what I fail to understand also. You talk of such a lot of risks that is involved as we speak, and yet the decision makers are not doing the needful. Yet the UN is being rendered the way it has been rendered. Yet the Israeli representative asks the United Nations Secretary General to resign him, of all things. I mean, this is audacious to say the least. This is unbecoming of any country, of any civilized country, to say the least. What options does Palestine have in your point of view?
I think Palestinians will be depending on these four groups that I mentioned.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, there was also, I think, some talk. Then, of course, we had Russian foreign minister, the Turkish foreign minister was in Iran yesterday, although they were for Azerbaijan and Armenia conflict, but there was signaling done from there also. And then you, of course, Chinese are also very much concerned about these choke points, because I think China's half of energy flows from here. So all told, there's a lot of pressure. I only see some silver lining. US now gradually shifting, because if you look at President Biden also now trying to convince Israel they should not go for ground action, because ground action will also involve like 35,000 Hamas is there.
But you remember the elections in the US are next year, and for them the vote bank is extremely important. So if there's a vote bank that is divided, whether it be the Islamic vote bank or the sympathizers or those who understand the reality, who do not vote for Biden, what happens?
Yeah, so this is, I think, political expediency, that you are not basically looking at the human cost. And I was, discussing yesterday that what else the Palestinian can display. I mean, you show half-cut bodies of their grandsons and grandchildren, and small kids getting injured, and I think there are 1,500 people still buried under the rubble. We don't know what has happened to them. So and then it's open, catastrophe right in live being telecasted. And where is the world conscious, as you say? Where are the human rights organizations? So I would say that still, I mean,
even human rights organizations, Brigadier Sahab, are not allowed to work as they can. Even Pakistan, the aid that Pakistan has sent, we don't even know whether it has arrived on the spot or not, because they're not being allowed. The aid, they have in some convoys that have been allowed to enter Gaza, but the rest, what happens? How can people whose access to water, food, electricity has been blocked, how can they live? I mean, isn't this okay? This is a question that I have asked, and I'd like your opinion as well. The people of Israel, the Jews, have gone through the Second World War and all the consequences that are still reverberated in TV shows and films as well, and through their different comments. What they are doing in Palestine, isn't this a repeat of exactly what they say the Nazis did to them?
I think I would say this is a Holocaust spread over, let's say 7 decades. And you are looking the manifestation, because now you have social media. There have been earlier atrocities, but this time, let's say, the conflict was very intense. So people are now seeing it precisely, and the people of conscience within Israel also, I think, they are resonating the same, that we have been victim of Nazism and concentration camps, and Gaza is a concentration camp. If you look at how they have been ostracized. So all told, I think this very much equates to what happened to them themselves. And now we have basically, I would say, the open air prison is now becoming an open air graveyard, I would say. Because the amount of casualties, the ones which are being reported, I don't know, maybe it is much more than that. There are people still
I'm sure there are much more than that.
And if you look at the people who are crippled or injured, and they are injured for life. And look at the ordnance and the weapon system being used by Israelis. And you are bombarding areas which are densely populated. As you said, Gaza is like 40 by 12 kilometers. So it's like I think 400 square kilometers.
And despite on that, as per the Gaza media office, Israel has dropped more than 12,000 tons of explosives, including white phosphorus bombs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there is a call by Iran also, that today if you don't stop the white phosphorus, tomorrow it will be our kids. So still I think it's an evolving situation. It's very difficult to really conclude, but our only advice to the stakeholders would be that they have to stop, and maybe ultimately they have to go for a final solution, which will be a two-state solution, with Beit al-Muqaddas being the capital of that land. But so far, I think Israel and West, they are not budging.
Let's hope they budge. I mean, as far as the latest details go, Blinken does say he's going to work with China's Wang Yi to rein in Mid East tensions, but at the same time he also warns Iran and the proxies in the region not to open up more fronts in the war. There are so many comments that are coming that kind of counter each other. Then Israel's decision to not give visas to UN officials, then the United Nations Secretary General's implication in the fact that the Israeli correspondent has said, the Israeli ambassador has said, asked him to resign, and so on and so forth. Let's hope some kind of sanity prevails. We can only hope. We are in Pakistan. We are not part of the conflict. Nevertheless, we side with Palestine. We side with those who are under oppression of the Israelis. Thank you very much, Brigadier Sahib. Kindly stay online with us. Stay in the studios with us. We'll be back after a short break with our second segment. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our first segment. We'll be back. We have to take a short break. Stay tuned. Watching Newsroom. Our second story concerns the media propaganda made by a leading political party known as the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Anti-state propaganda has been revealed through official social media teams during the tenure of the PTI. Now, according to a report that has recently been published, the plan to fabricate a fake image of the PTI chairman has been exposed. Fake publicity of PTI leadership, false propaganda against state institutions was done at the expense of government resources. Social media was used to defame and harass opponents. Teams were used sparingly. Instead of publicizing government projects, poisonous propaganda continued. Government resources were used for illegal political propaganda campaigns. And I have a whole list of how this was done. We've been joined by two guests, one who stays with us on our insistence, and the second is a regular for our shows. Let me introduce them to you again. Brigadier Waqar Hassan Khan, Senior Analyst, joins us again for this second segment. Thank you, sir, to continue to stay with us. And our second guest is Agha Iqrar Haroon, Senior Journalist. Agha Saab, pleasure to have you back in our show. Let's begin with Agha Iqrar, because you're a new entrant here. The key allegations, revelations that have been revealed regarding the use of government resources for a political campaign in the era of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, doesn't that come as a surprise to you?
Actually, Omar, it was not a surprise for me, because we journalists had been writing on this since long, even since that time where everybody was on the same page. KPK and Punjab, their provincial government hired a number of youth and also the federal government. So they were the butt of their campaign was that time the parliament, the democracy and the politicians. But after 2022 change, and when the PTI chairman was sent home through a vote of no confidence, they changed their butt, and on the butt it was state institutions. This is the whole story. And you have already so much information with you. I understand that, but in a crust I can tell you, if you calculate the entire amount of KPK, Punjab and the federal government, that would definitely go over 8 billion rupees minimum, I am telling you. And this is what we know. This is what we have just found.
There's so much that is yet to be unearthed.
Exactly, there are layered by layered by layered. This is the only one layer that is exposed. And honestly, with taking my full responsibility, I am telling you that PTI cult is still operational and functional in many government organizations.
All right.
You will need, because it was like a virus, and the virus was basically what happened. I can tell you this lab was blown up and the virus spread everywhere. So it will take years to find them, who they are. But their target is very clear. Their target is institutions of Pakistan. Their target is Pakistan Army, from where Brigadier Sahib belong. So they know everything, who is where. Because when this project Imran was in a formation, so they must have more information than you, me and other journalists. So there are, the entire nation, not the government, not the state, entire nation should respond. And the immediate what you can do and me can do is, one must not a part of their echo chamber by watching them, by clicking them, their propaganda, or by being a part of it.
Unfortunately, Asaf, the fact remains that whatever happens, we all tend to read or watch that things that are negative,
yes,
that are propaganda in tone.
Basically, Umar, this social media is formed on the basis or the psychology of negativity. For example, if I say Omar is a very excellent, good person and very seasoned anchor,
You won't get the likes.
no, exactly. Nobody would respond. If I say, oh, do you know Omar is that and blah blah blah, you will also respond. If you will find Iqrar has appreciated you, you may not call me. If you find I tell something which you don't like or feel negative, you will definitely call me.
That is true. But Agha sahab,
Exactly. This is the whole
but you know,
gambit.
To be negative on social media is one thing. To use government resources is another.
Yes, and they're still, I am telling you, government should check. I am sure they are still doing it.
All right.
There are people in a very laid by laid system who are still on a government payroll, but from the beginning to the end of the day, they promote PTI narrative and they tell you and me something definitely once in a day which is against the constitution.
Exactly, and you know the way, the amount of times
Yeah.
this is posted on social media, you are bound to go through it. You are bound to read it one way or the other. Brigadier Saab, let's come to you. The annual development program. Let's talk of just that. Big social media teams were given the task of spreading a negative, the propaganda of the PTI and whatever was associated with under the guise of this. So many other programs were initiated in which people were hired as part of the teams, and then their main task was to do something entirely different. Can we control this in this day and age? Can we completely put a plug on it, or will it take time? And secondly, what impact do you feel it has had on a normal layman? I'm not talking of myself or yourself, but the person on the street, the person who wants to know what is happening in his country.
I think I'll agree with Agha Saab that basically the poison was injected, over a period of I would say 1 decade, and I'll also try to connect it to how they went the science about it. I think one is the Creel committee, which was done in basically First World War. There was a Creel commission which was given task to generate hate against the Germans. Why? Because US public was not ready to enter into First World War, and within 6 months they were able to change through narrative. And imagine social media wasn't there. I think TV wasn't there.
Radio.
And it was only radio and some talks or maybe something happening on the cinema. Then comes Cambridge Analytica, which was, I think, studied very deeply by the PTI leadership because it changed the Brexit, narrative, and people voted, and they realized that maybe they have done mistake, but it was. And then, of course, Trump winning election, so Cambridge Analytica played a big role. So I think these were two inspirations. Till that time, it remained, let's say, in the social media domain as part of political discourse is okay. But as you mentioned, when you use the exchequer, the state resources or the provincial resources, and you claim, on the other side, you claim that we are a very clean party, we are for accountability, everybody is thug, dacoit and let's say a thief, and probably they were angels and their leadership. And on the other side, you find that it basically you're using state resources, and then of course undermining, as he mentioned, your parliament, at times the judiciary, and of course the let's say leadership of the political parties. And then closer to 9th May, as you mentioned before that, the Hymns of Hate strategy had started, injecting narrative against the military leadership, and then started targeting even way of life of a soldier or an officer. So, and then you start weaponizing it, and we saw the display on 9th May, how it was weaponized. So that is very, very dangerous. So if you look at Indian media, I think the PTI's top, let's say, troll teams or YouTubers, social media activists were the blue-eyed, and they used to claim, and still it is claimed, that the amount of damage they have done in, let's say, trying to create a wedge between the, let's say, army, the military, and the people of Pakistan. Even RAW couldn't do it in last 70. So this is the kind of damage they have done. Now we come to basically how do you move forward. One is, of course, accountability, exposing them. And as Agha Sahab said, I think there are a lot of information already available, and build upon. But this, I think, report came mainly from KP, and now we're looking at federal government, Balochistan, and then Sindh and Punjab. And all told, maybe it's very close to what he's saying. That is the amount of money which was injected. And imagine what was happening to the mainstream media, how much money was being given to certain, let's say, anchors or print media, what was being done, and the campaigns. And then, of course, international linkages. If you look at 9th May, there were open calls coming from London and North America, go and target such and such house, or let's say, and then vandalizing, Shoda monuments and all that. Unfortunately,
and then doing it with pride, as if you're doing something extremely useful for the country.
Yeah. And then the youth has actually suffered. I think the big lesson is for the youth or the activists of PTI or whosoever they're doing on social media for 25 to 30,000. But they were, I think, big crocodiles or magarmach, as you say, who were making a lot of money, because the managers or I would say the directors. So maybe they have to reach up to that. But they have suffered. We looked at 9th May, it's mainly the youth which is, let's say, suffering. They are under cases. And then what is their future left, in, let's say, in academia or whatever job they were doing. So I think it's a big lesson for that. It will take a while, but I am sure this information actually should have been shared earlier, because I think this was mentioned about 3-4 months back by the information minister of the caretaker minister of KP that such and such data is available. So good thing is now through, I think, public discourse, people have come to know. Now coming to the common man. By and large, I think common man's perception has been affected by two factors. One, of course, economy was not doing well, irrespective of what the, let's say, last government did or caretaker government is trying to do. But still there is a wide gap which was created in terms of, let's say, purchasing power for common man. So then he basically absorbs it as a gospel's truth, because he then definitely blames either the past
whatever comes as criticism of the government, he feels that this is the truth, because it kind of reaffirms his belief in the fact that whatever he or she is encountering is because of the government.
Because of that. And that's why I think that you have to make a lot of effort. One, of course, it's all depends on how do you reform the economy and put it back on the track, and the common man gets some relief in terms of, let's say, energy bills or day-to-day living or commodity prices. So there's a lot of work required, because till that time I think this narrative will persist, especially it's being bombarded from outside also. And then there were Indian trawls joining from Bangalore and Mumbai and Delhi, and they would get injected into it. So, but I think it's good that things are now coming up, and we should go for account. And then is contacting the youth or communicating with the youth in academia and even in villages and schools, that this is how it was happening. And I'm sure as we go forward, there's a lot of information which is going to come.
As long as this information comes, Agha Sahab, what do you feel should be, should a case be filed against all the perpetrators? Should they be made an example of, so that things like these are not followed by anybody in the future? Because this is huge, this scandal is very big, and if, as what you say, such scandals are also unearthed in other provinces in the federal capital, this is going to create a furor. This said, how do you control media, whether it be social media, whether it be traditional media, that are still spewing hate from certain quarters one way or the other?
Omar, first of all, I am of the view that the response of Pakistan Army was very sane and excellent. After 9th May. They followed the policy of restraint. They could do anything. I mean, if soldier is, you can say, he is grown to protect his, you can say, his honor and the place he is standing. But we must appreciate the leadership of Pakistan Army, because the message was restrained. So we had gone through this phase. Now what is to be done? There should be zero level of tolerance for everybody who had been directly or indirectly involved in 9th May. 9th May didn't take place in one day, as
it was a gradual increase that led to.
So all of them should be held responsible for that. And again, we should appreciate Pakistan Army. They started cleansing house from themselves first of all. I mean, I don't want to name, but you know what happened in Lahore and so on and so forth. So then it was the responsibility of you can say, the previous civil government to take the lead. But I'm so sorry, please forgive me. They refrained. And not only refrained, sometime I felt they were standing little away from the situation.
All right.
Okay, let the army face it and let the army fix it. It was a wrong and very unfortunate move of the civilian government of the PDM.
All right.
Now, I have very high hopes with this interim government. they should. I'm still waiting. I mean, the decision of the Supreme Court came over this. You can say trying civilians in military courts. But this is the second day. I thought the civilian government would definitely immediately go for appeal for the appellate court. So this is the no responsibility of the civilian government. Whatever Pakistan Army could do, they had done. They restrained and then they cleaned their house. And I mean, you must appreciate them. But still I am saying the cases are not against these social media people. I had been writing on that. Waqar sab and you, keep sending to you.
Yes.
There are people, we know their names. I don't want to name here, it's a state channel. They are people, they are not faceless. At least you should claim you have a face, who are their name. They live in Pakistan, they live in Islamabad, they live in Lahore. And every day they start hate mongering early in the morning against Pakistan Army and end up at the evening.
What is the state of Pakistan that includes the Pakistan Armed
Then
Forces?
why should they are not being claimed? This is my question. This is a civilian issue, not the army issue now. And moreover, with the due apology to both of you, the role of the PTA. PTA did not respond to all websites who had been involved in hate mongering against the Pakistan Army. PTA can down your website in 1 second. In 1 second only. But these websites are even run by from Pakistan also. So it took at least 3 months to PTA to decide we should take some decision, and it happened with, I think, that the new chairman came, if I am not wrong.
All right.
So now there is action, but we lost 16 months of the PDM government where we did not see any strong response from the civilian government against those who had been targeting physically, mentally, psychologically, socially to state institutions.
All right.
So there is a gap of the 16 months, my dear.
In this gap, Brigadier Sahab, what way forward do you see? What should be the methodology taken by the government, by the different agencies that are part of the government, in order to cleanse all such elements from our society and to reduce to a maximum or completely the use of government resources for fake propaganda?
I think it's following basic rules. I think even if you look at, let's say, Ministry of Information, PAMRA, PTA, there are, I think, definitely rules for everything. Pakistan actually, if you look at it, it's a book of rules for everything. I'll just give you an example of India. So they developed basically social media rules, and this was promulgated, I think, in 2019 and then strengthened in 2023. And there are 10 agencies which are allowed by law to stop anybody, take his laptop or mobile phone, take out the data in case there is something nefarious, he can be charged. So here in case of Pakistan, there is always noise of human rights, and even if you look at PICA, how it was implemented and challenged in the courts. But still, I think if you look at laws are very clear. They are related to blasphemous content, spreading hate, let's say interstate, interprovincial harmony, or let's say interfaith harmony. And then comes state institution, whether it is judiciary, whether it's the military, state institution. Even I think the parliament has also come up with their law. So it's just implementation. The data is there. I think there are a lot of information. Then you have to just connect the dots and then start basically the accountability process. It's not very difficult, but I think parallel is that how much relief we can give to the common man. Economy has to come, because these two have to run parallel. I think if you look at the effort by the even interim government, there is a lot of effort on emancipation of let's say masses and giving them some relief. So I'm sure as we move forward, there's a way that we can sort this out.
All right. Finally, Agha Sahab, do you feel the strategy to counter such elements and completely eliminate them from the society is going to be a short-term or a long-term goal?
Both actually. Short term, we need immediately to contact our students in universities, in schools even, and there should be lectures to them. We should inform them what is propaganda, how it is launched, what are the parameters of the propaganda, So whenever they find some clip or some content, they can they can check that content by themselves. Can it be a propagandist content, or is it simply clean content? This is a training is needed at a school and college and university level. And the long term is, we should decide Pakistan cannot survive with experimentations. That is it.
All right. All right. Point taken. Thank you very much to both my guests, Brigadier Waqar Hassan Khan and Agha Iqrar Haroon, who have joined us, who have talked to us about the use of government funds and the misuse, rather, of government funds in the guise of spreading negative narrative of a certain political party that still continues in some form or the other on different social media platforms. So let's hope sense prevails, and of course the government is doing the needful and will continue to do the needful in eliminating all such resources and the sources of these resources. Thank you very much to both my guests who have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories, ladies and gentlemen, very quickly. We'll begin with the moon that scientists now feel is older than it was previously thought. 40 million years, this is what scientists say, that the moon was older than we had thought it was. And of course this is based on certain samples that were taken and then were of course analyzed. The fact remains that with every passing day or every passing year, we find new discoveries. We understand how the world or the world beyond us operates, whether it be the moon, whether it be Mars, whether it be the other galaxies beyond. The fact is that when we understand these realities, we can better understand how we can function as a community, as a global community, and how we could have a better understanding of how the world came into being and how these planets and how the moon also came into being. And it is through these researches that we come to better conclusions, whether scientific or non-scientific. Last story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Amazon River. Now there has been a drought in the Amazon River. What has happened is that this has led people to get a huge discovery, if I can say the least, of human faces and other figures that were etched in stone that date back to 2000 years. Because the Amazon River receded, so the people were able to find that huge discovery for archaeologists, and huge discovery also for those who are studying mankind's history in order to ascertain what happened, how did we come to this, and what were the different civilizations that were present at different stages of the human evolution. It's an interesting concept. It helps us better understand ourselves as peoples and as nations, and maybe when we look at conflicts such as what is happening in Palestine, Ukraine, and in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, we can maybe learn a lesson or two from these older civilizations. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.